How does child marriage in developing countries impact the education of a young girl?
According to UNICEF, girls form the majority of the 120 million children not in school in developing countries. One of the reasons for the lack of attendance on behalf of girls is child marriage. Child marriage is both a cause and a consequence of poor educational attainment for girls, and this is something we are going to look at deeper. UNICEF states that there are currently 12 million girls under the age of 18 getting married each year. This means that by 2030 there will be more than 150 million more girls getting married before 18 if something doesn't change. Child marriage, marriage at under 18 years of age, is a violation of human rights that has detrimental effects on health and education. Globally, 1 in 3 girls are married before 18 and 1 in 7 before 15 years old. Substantial amounts of research has shown how education plays an important role for the future life of a young girl. Research has suggested how education is one of the most powerful tools in keeping girls away from child marriage, with statistics showing that the longer a girl remains in school, the less likely she will marry young and start a family. Some statistics have shown that if girls received a secondary education, then infant mortality rates would fall by 49%, which would save 2.8 million lives. Not only that, but girls with an education would have half the amount of children than if they had no education. This is because education not only teaches literacy and maths, but it can also educate girls about their health, including their sexual health.
One main reason why girls are not in school is due to the expense that comes with attending school in the developing countries. Girls who come from families suffering from poverty are more at risk of marrying at a young age. Research has shown how the poorest countries, including sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia, have the highest child marriage rates. Poorer families with many children often marry their daughter at a young age as they see it as one less mouth to feed, clothe and educate. For some parents, bride price is an incentive to marry their daughter young. Bride price is a transfer from the groom and or his family given to the bride's family upon marriage. This payment can take the form of money, animals or property and often equates to a year's worth of income. This type of payment can take pressures off families suffering from a financial crisis, which is why it is likely for parents to take the payment and marry off their daughter. This is common practice for Southeast Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa, the places where child marriage is at the highest.
Linked to poverty is the relationship between girls' and boys' education and social norms in developing countries. Gender equality places a low value on girls' education and employment possibilities. A quote from a parent in Uganda states there is no vocational school that would train girls after primary and secondary school, so it is seen as a waste of resources to educate girls. Families in developing countries have a lack of money and resources, so what they do have, they invest in their sons. According to the World Bank, girls often get married due to lack of alternatives. They have a limited access to education, and families often prioritise the education of their sons. This is because they see their sons as having better future opportunities, meaning better economic prospects. This is seen as a better way for parents to use their limited resources, as they expect their son's education to bring greater returns. They also believe that when their daughter is married, it passes on what they class as a financial burden to their daughter's new husband. Some parents do not see the value of education for their daughters. This is due to having poor education on offer to girls, or because parents do not see the relevance education has to their daughter's life. Parents who follow certain cultures and traditions believe their daughters will grow up to look after the children and the house, so therefore education is not important to that lifestyle. The Sustainable Development Goals are working to achieve gender equality. Goal 5 is specifically aimed at achieving gender equality and empowering all women and girls. Target 5.1 of this goal is to end all forms of discrimination against all women and girls everywhere. This discrimination includes education, as girls deserve the right to a good education. By working towards gender equality, it will close the achievement gap between girls and boys, and so girls will have the chance for a better future.
Another sustainable goal is aimed at education. Sustainable Development Goal 4 is targeting quality education. Target 4.1 is aiming to ensure that all girls and boys complete free and quality primary and secondary education, and they are hoping to achieve this by 2030. However, just because it is free education, this still may not be enough to ensure parents send their daughters to school. Laws need to be enforced and sanctions put in place to increase the likelihood of girls getting into school. This research has also found that even when education has been made free, it is still the responsibility of the parents to choose whether to send their children to school or not, and with the attainment of girls at low, investigations need to be made to understand why parents still don't send their daughters to school even when it is made free.
One reason parents don't send their daughters to school is that getting to school can be dangerous for girls as they have to travel far and either walk or catch buses. One parent in Bangladesh said she knew it was wrong to marry her daughter off very early, but marriage is seen as a cover of respect and protection by women, and by not going to school, it reduces the risk of being sexually active outside the house or being harassed while commuting. Therefore, removing them from school and marrying them off can be a form of protection so that they are no longer harassed. This is also to protect the girl's virginity until marriage. If they were sexually assaulted on the way to school, they would bring shame to their family. Women who are married are less likely to be sexually or physically assaulted if they have the protection of a man.
However, child marriage also prevents girls from attending school, as when girls are married young, it is the norm to quickly become pregnant after. One girl from Niger said, "I was married during a school break and before I could return I became pregnant. I never returned." Current policies in place result in girls not being able to go to school, as pregnant girls are often banned from sitting exams and attending school. It was found that in Tanzania they conduct pregnancy tests and expel any students that test positive. It is also an issue of childcare, as it is down to the mother to look after the child. There is a lack of free early childcare, which results in mothers not being able to go back to education.
However, some countries, including Cameroon, South Africa and Zambia, have adopted re-entry policies so that adolescent mothers can return to school after giving birth. This allows them to still gain an education after giving birth if they can find suitable childcare. But more needs to be done to keep the girls in school once they have re-entered, as research has shown how the environment is not suitable for girls as they face discrimination from their teachers and peers after giving birth.
Often, it is not seen why girls need to be educated, as it is seen as their duty to be at home. However, if there were more opportunities for girls to become educated for something more worthwhile, their parents would be more willing to send their daughters to school. A big problem with schools is that there is a lack of female teachers. So not only do young girls not have a female role model to look up to, they are also surrounded by men. This is another reason why parents are unwilling to send their daughters to school, as they fear their child will be sexually exploited. It is essential to have more female teachers, as they are critical in keeping girls in school longer due to the motivation they give their pupils, as well as being able to advise girls who are more comfortable talking to another female. Work has been done to try and encourage girls to gain further education to becoming teachers. For example, in Afghanistan, as part of a training program called Girls Learning How to Teach, over a 24-week program, the girls were able to observe classes and complete practical assignments. This combats the lack of female teachers, but also enables the girls to become educated and allow them to be independent.
Due to the price of education and the lack of resources from families, charities and governments have been tackling the issues surrounding this to keep girls in school. In 2016, the World Bank pledged to invest $2.5 billion over 5 years into education projects for adolescent girls. Work by the Sahel Women Empowerment and Demographic Dividend Project has worked with countries such as Niger and Chad to empower female adolescents. They offer safe spaces for girls and encourage them to stay in school by giving conditional cash transfers to help pay for resources. This project costs $205 million, but it does aim to tackle wider issues such as expanding the access to maternal and child health by working alongside communities and religious leaders. Another ongoing project is the work being done by the Christian Children's Funds, who have set up boarding schools for young girls to stay at in order to gain an education. The parents promise their daughters to an education instead of to marriage, and this project has a 98% completion rate. Similarly, dormitory programs have been set up in Cambodia that allow girls to stay in accommodation next to government high schools in order for them to continue their education after primary level. With poverty being a root cause of lack of attendance and highest rates of child marriage, it is not surprising that most interventions and motivations to get girls in school are focused on cash incentives and programs that reduce the cost of schooling.
To conclude, research has shown the importance of education for a young girl. Not only does it keep her safe from child marriage, it also gives a young girl better opportunities for a future. By keeping girls in school, it supports the perception that they are still children and therefore are not at an age where they should be getting married. In order to keep girls in schools, families may need financial support to invest it into their daughters' education instead of only their sons, and schools need to be made safer for females. This includes safer transportation to school and the correct toilet facilities at school. Work is already being done by charities and governments to support young girls and their education, but more needs to be done to ensure parents and communities also support the education on offer for girls.